Wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.
Jess Hilarious, Charlamagne the Guy. We are the Breakfast Club. That was A$AP Rocky Hijack.
I dig that tune. A$AP said, I don't even like rap. Invested in some mice traps. Now I'm sitting here wondering, did A$AP Rocky really invest in mice traps?
He might have.
That's a fantastic thing to invest in. That's the type of thing you don't think to invest in, but like mice traps ain't going nowhere.
No, especially in New York.
How much money you can make off mice traps?
I'm sure.
Rap has come such a long way.
Yes, it has.
Well, let's get in some front page news. Good morning, Morgan.
Good morning, y'all. Happy Friday. Yes,
Hey,
there
girl.
was a celebration of life. It took place yesterday in Houston to remember Representative Sheila Jackson Lee, who died last month at the age of 74 after battling cancer. Vice President Kamala Harris spoke during the service, and here's what she had to say about the late Congresswoman.
Sheila Jackson Lee understood the privilege and obligation and nobility of public service. And through her service, she did untold good. When it came to her constituents, there was no task too big or too small for the Congresswoman. If it needed to be done, she made sure it was done and done right. Sheila Jackson Lee, to know her was to know a true champion, a fierce champion for justice.
Yes, so former President Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton also spoke during the service. Dozens of members of Congress and other local and national leaders also attended the service. Among them were House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries and Reverend Al Sharpton. They also shared comments about their interactions with Sheila Jackson Lee. Let's hear from them.
A defender of democracy, a civil rights champion, a legendary legislator, and a powerful, profound, principled, progressive public servant wrapped up in one.
She'd be there standing up front, loud and proud. America's a better place because of Sheila Jackson Lee.
Yeah, so I was
Rest in
going
peace to Sheila Jackson Lee.
Absolutely. Oh, you don't want to drop those clues bombs? You always drop
You
them
don't
for
drop
everybody.
clues bomb for a rest
Hell
in peace.
no, she not
Morgan,
even
Lord have
here.
mercy.
She not, damn, Morgan.
Drop one of the clues bomb for Sheila Jackson Lee
No,
being
I'm
dead.
talking about the
Damn,
work that
Morgan.
no, not that. Oh my God, not that she died. Okay, y'all.
Wow,
That's the
Morgan.
work that she
Wow.
did. The work that she did for the work in her life and her legacy. But never mind. Moving on. BP.
Wow.
Violence.
Just playing. Drop
Drop
a
a
clues
clues
bomb
bomb
for Morgan Lee.
What you
For
call her,
Sheila
Morgan
Jackson
Lee?
Lee.
Sheila Jackson Lee.
Okay.
Let's get back on track, y'all. Okay, so
Oh,
y'all
my
want to choose
goodness.
violence. Vice President Harris, she wanted to choose violence too. She jumped into the and clapped back at President Trump about remarks regarding her race and ethnicity. Let's hear more from VP Harris on those comments. Sheesh.
It was the same old show, the divisiveness and the disrespect. And let me just say, the American people deserve better. The American people deserve better. We deserve a leader who understands that our differences do not divide us. They are an essential source of our strength.
Of course, that comes after, Trump's Q&A session at the NABJ convention where he said that Harris was always of Indian heritage and later happened to turn black. What were you going to say, Shar?
No, I was going to say, the vice president is right. I was on Aaron Burnett's show last night on CNN, and I said that, it's just the same old show, and that's why it should be ignored. It's a distraction. Like Donald Trump, as of right now, has no real strategy against the vice president. So they're going to say she's a DEI hire.
Yeah.
They're going to attempt to weaponize her not having kids. They're going to question her blackness. Ignore it all. Like the media, like us in general, should focus on whatever candidate is talking about the issues. Anything else is not worth discussing.
Well, I will say that J.D. Vance toured the U.S.-Mexico border yesterday. He was very critical of Vice President Harris, slamming her border policies. He promised to implement the so-called Remain in Mexico policy, and construction of the border wall will resume if Trump wins the White House in November. Now, the Trump campaign has repeatedly attacked VP Harris on immigration since she became the likely Democratic nominee for president. Yeah, so we'll see what happens with that. That's your front page news, at least for the 6 o'clock hour. And the 7 o'clock hour, we'll talk more about presidential immunity and what's happening with that.
All right.
Wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ NV, Jess Hilarious, Charlamagne the Guy. We are the Breakfast Club. Now let's get in some front page news. Morgan. Morning, Morgan.
Good morning, Morgan. Good morning. Yeah, so Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, he's introducing a bill to strip former President Trump of immunity. The No Kings Act would clarify the that the Constitution does not entitle presidents to immunity from prosecution for acts that violate federal criminal law, despite last month's Supreme Court ruling granting presidents broad immunity. Let's hear more from Chuck Schumer on the No Kings Act.
The Supreme Court is a morass. It's an ethical morass, and it's a substantive morass. Chief Justice Roberts is derelict in his responsibility. He should be cleaning this up. He's not, and that's why we in Congress have an obligation to do it. And even violating our democracy with the ridiculous, awful decision that presidents are kings, that if they do something they think is official, that they can do, as Nixon said, whatever they want.
I have no idea what that word means that Chuck Schumer was using, but I mean, you could easily change that to the Supreme Court is ass. Okay, the Supreme Court is ass. They are no longer a legitimate institution, and I'm glad that Joe Biden's calling for Supreme Court reform. I'm glad Chuck Schumer's doing what he's doing, but it's going to take a lot more than that to stop the corruption that is going on with the Supreme Court. They need to expand the courts. Everybody knows it, because one thing everybody should fear is in November is if the vice president wins and beats Donald Trump and then Donald Trump challenges the results, the Supreme Court is going to overturn the results of that election. And in the light of all these recent rulings, like stuff like this presidential immunity thing, I don't see why y'all would trust them to do us right.
Well, there you go. You said the legislation is unlikely to pass in the Senate, where it would need at least 60 votes to overcome a Republican filibuster. And of course, as you mentioned, this is after Biden has called for an overhaul of the conservative majority court, considering term limits and, of course, an enforceable code of ethics. Speaking of President Biden, he is calling the U.S.-Russia prisoner swap, which is a huge deal that happened yesterday, that included the release of a Wall Street Journal reporter, a feat of diplomacy. While speaking from the steps of the White House, Biden announced the release of 3 American citizens and an American green card holder who he says were unjustly imprisoned in Russia. Let's hear more from Biden.
Today, we're bringing home Paul, Evan, Arce, Vladimir. 3 American citizens and 1 American green card holder. All 4 have been imprisoned unjustly in Russia, all for nearly 6 years. Vladimir since 2022, Evan since March of 2023, and Arce since October of 2023. Russian authorities arrested them, convicted them in show trials, and sentenced them to long prison terms with absolutely no legitimate reason whatsoever, none.
So Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich and former Marine Paul Whelan were released in that deal. Of course, meanwhile, former President Donald Trump, he's taking issue with the president's assertion that he inherited the American prisoners being held in Russia. While on the Clay and Buck show, Trump predicted Americans will continue to be arrested overseas as long as the U.S. continues to pay money as part of their release. Let's hear more from former President Trump.
No, I heard that. I heard he said this. Why didn't Trump get him out? And he was taken during that time. You know, I got out 59 different people, 59, and I didn't pay money. These deals are going to happen more and more because the amount of things, including cash, that we give up is so astronomical. This is a big deal.
59 is not accurate, by the way, but go ahead, Shar.
No, so he's saying that, anytime Americans go over there, they're just going to arrest you because they know that the U.S. going to pay?
Yeah, that's what he's saying.
Depending who you
Pretty
are.
much.
Yeah, that's what he's saying. He's saying not just money, but, other people that we have here that we arrested that are Russian people that they're pretty much just arresting U.S. citizens because they know it's an easy trade.
Well, that's not going to help Russian tourism.
No, not at all. In fact, WNBA star Brittany Griner, she's weighed in, as somebody who was actually in a prisoner swap in Russia. So she posted on Instagram in a post, although today is one of celebration, she said her and her wife, their hearts go out to many Americans still being held hostage overseas and their families. So again, Brittany Griner was held as a prisoner in Russia for 10 months in 2022 before being freed in a prisoner swap exchange, I believe, with Victor Bout, who was, he's quite the
arms
the
dealer,
mercenary right? Depth. Paul Whelan is the guy they were mad about, right? When Brittany came home, they were like, why didn't y'all do trade for Paul?
Paul,
Right.
absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking of Griner, the U.S. women's basketball team is now 2-0 at the Paris Olympics. They defeated Belgium 87-74 to extend their Olympic winning streak to 57 games. Breanna Stewart led the way with 26 points, while Griner added 7. With the win, Team USA punched their ticket to the quarterfinals. Team USA will wrap up group play against Germany on Sunday. Meanwhile, Kevin Durant and the men face Puerto Rico tomorrow in its group final game. Do we even have time to talk about Simone Biles and all of that? I mean, they just did damn thing. Simone Biles' floor routine helped her win a second gold medal in the event after winning it at the 2016 Rio Olympics. Of course, her teammate Suni Lee took the bronze medal. Lee won gold at the 2020 Olympics. This marked the first time 2 medalists competed against each other in the event. So, of course, you guys be sure to listen live to all the Olympics coverage on the iHeart mobile app. It's free. Download it right now. iHeart is the exclusive audio home for NBC's coverage of the 2024 Paris Olympics. That's your front page news.
Thank you, Morgan.
I'm Morgan Wood. And be sure to check me out on social at Morgan Media and continue to check out more news coverage on the Black Information Network at BINnews.com. Thank y'all. Happy Friday.
Morgan.
Great weekend.
Hey, you too now. All right, when we come back, Charlamagne got a chance to sit down with Big Sean, and we're going to play that back when we come back. He has a new series called Out of Context.
Yeah, it'll be available on YouTube at 9 a.m., but, we're going to play portions of it for you right now. Sean got a new album coming out called Better Me Than You. He's got a new book coming out in the fall called Go Higher. He also dropped a new single this morning that we're going to get on featuring Janae Aiko called Get On Up.
All right, and we'll get to that next. It's The Breakfast Club. Good morning.
Wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.